In the meantime, the Democratic Party has a lot of goals for you. Suspend all immigration enforcement, abolish all gender distinctions, take away your guns. But the party now has another goal, at least one being discussed in private: reparations. Democracy Alliance is a group of rich Democratic donors. It's a big deal. Billionaires George Soros and Tom Steyer are donors to it. An invitation to the group's spring dinner held last week fantasized that by 2022, not that far from now, reparations could be a top item on the Democratic agenda. And it may be, by the way. John Summers is a former communications director for Harry Reid, the Senate Majority Leader of Nevada, or as they call it, Nevada. And he joins us tonight. John, thanks for coming on.
You bet. Thanks for having me.
So I like this story because it actually allows us to have an honest conversation about what this would mean, about reparations. And by the way, I'm open-minded about this as I am about all things. But how would it work? Would immigrants, and there are a lot of immigrants in this country, newly arrived from, say, Mexico, have to pay for reparations?
Well, let's take a step back if we're actually going to have an honest conversation.
Yeah, let's do it. Why not?
And talk about how we're actually not anti-God. We aren't for eliminating the borders. We do see genders. So I think a lot of the things that you're creating a great stereotype, and I think you're doing a great job.
Well, you know, I appreciate
which is typical for your side.
I appreciate that. Actually,
but we should actually have the honest conversation.
I don't know if you're a nightly viewer of the show, but I think we kind of prove all that night to night, but I encourage you to watch. But let's just get to this, reparations. So this is one of those ideas that people dismissed as crazy or whatever. Then Ta-Nehisi Coates, who's kind of the poet laureate of the left, wrote this famous piece in The Atlantic calling for it. Now it's on the Democracy Alliance agenda. This could be real. So what are the details? It's a sincere question. Millions of immigrants in this country, are they going to be required to pay for reparations? And
you're right. It was on that Democracy Alliance agenda, along with talking about ways to strengthen rural women, how to put an end to gun violence here in America, raising the minimum wage.
Actually, it's just it's
there
stuff
were a
like
number
that
of issues that were discussed
that makes
there,
people not take the party seriously. But whatever.
Let's go to your topic of reparations,
for the third time to the point.
Which I think, frankly, I feel awkward talking about, because here we are, two white guys who have no idea what the African American experience has actually been in this country.
I'm an American citizen and a taxpayer, and I have every bit as much right to talk about government policy as any American. So I reject your presupposition out of hand.
But you have not experienced that hurt. But let's set aside the hurt.
Here's what I am as an American citizen, and I have a right and an obligation to talk about and understand the policies my government may impose, including this one. So let's get detailed about it. Who would pay? Who would benefit?
I don't know. That's one of those things that we don't have the details on whoever's putting forward that policy prescription. But what I actually think reparations don't go far enough. I actually think what we need to do is look forward to policies that will actually change the dynamic in this country and level the playing field for African Americans. So we're opening the gateway and the pathway to the middle class.
Well, I couldn't agree more. So let's just start with one, and maybe we can agree on this. Refugee resettlement almost exclusively happens in poor working class communities. Refugees come over from Somalia or wherever, and they move into Lowell, Mass. and Lewiston, Maine, and poor places. Let's make a pact that we move them only into Martha's Vineyard, Nantucket, Northwest D.C., the Upper East Side of Manhattan, only places where rich people live. Marin County ought to get $1 million or so. Why don't we do that? Why don't we start there? Would you be for that?
I don't think that would actually be the solution. I think the solution, as I was saying, would actually be to pass policies that level the playing field.
Why wouldn't that level the playing field?
So we provide equal opportunity to achieving the middle class for every American.
If I'm coming, slow down. If I'm coming from Somalia and you move me into some dead, depressing mill town with no mills, my chances of success are much less than if I move into, say, your neighborhood. Why shouldn't I go to the schools that your kids go to? Why shouldn't I live in Kentfield, California?
Well, I think it's awfully kind of you to offer housing for some of these folks.
Oh, because rich liberals don't want to live near them. That's why.
That's funny. That's not at all what we were talking about.
You're saying let's level the playing field.
I think that's great.
Which, by the way,
if you're offering to house some people, I think that's fantastic of you.
No.
But let's actually talk about the system that needs to be changed in order.
Dude, I'm for actually changing it. I'm not sure you are. But, John, thank you. We're out of time. I could go on forever. It's nice to see you. CNN's Jim Acosta is always on the hunt for bigotry. Did he finally find it? We'll tell you. Hilarious guy.